Good evening, everyone. We are now live in Onshape users worldwide YouTube channel and Facebook page for multi-part design in Onshape. Inviting you to join us in LinkedIn, Onshape users worldwide, and we are also in Facebook. Like and follow for you to get notified on our upcoming Onshape workshops. Inviting you to share this live stream, and please do register for you to receive a certificate of event participation. Okay, I'll be giving you enough time to join our groups and to register, and we'll see you after 5 minutes. Okay. Happy evening to JM Calales. Hello. Okay, I'd like to introduce our speaker this evening. She is the academic technical sales specialist associate at PTC. I'll be adding Priyanka Goswami. Good evening.
Good evening, Nelsie, and hello, everybody. I welcome you all to this session.
Okay. So Priyanka, where are you right now?
I'm based out in India right now, and it's really great to have a session in Philippines and for the community. I'm working with PTC from start of my career. It's been like 2.5 years now. Uh, and basically, I'm working on the adoption part of Onshape. We have been supporting technically and on the sales approach, so every time we love to support customer and hear new stories. So that's a big answer to where I am.
Okay,
Yeah,
I think let's start.
perfect. So are we gonna wait for like a couple of minutes, or shall I just start?
Yeah, let's start.
Okay, perfect. So for that, let me just start sharing my screen with you guys. So please acknowledge me once you see my screen.
Yeah, we can see it now.
So do you see my screen,
Yes.
everybody? Okay, perfect. So let's get started. And I would like to start off by saying thank you, everybody, for coming. And my name is Priyanka. And of course, we are going to talk about multi part modeling in a part studio. So I'll be covering all the different details of modeling multiple parts together in Onshape, right? So my today's agenda would be that we are going to get into multi-part modeling in this session. And I'll start over by having an overview of Onshape and what we have as different educational offerings for educators and students, and which is really suitable for any classroom trainings that in particular. Then after, I will be talking about how we do multi-body design in any traditional CAD-based system. And then after, we will be talking about some of the major differences while working in multi-part studio with Onshape versus any other traditional CAD-based system. And of course, we'll be seeing some of the examples here. So moving forward, I would like to start up by showing you the top features of Onshape Plan. So first of all, it's a modern and professional 3D cloud-based tool. And at present, it is being used by thousands of companies, name it, like any vertical: aerospace, mechanical design, agriculture, motorsport, etc. So secondly, it comes with your data management. It's built in, so you don't need to have a particular storage for your data. So it's a great advantage that everything is stored on the cloud. It's a web based, so the great advantage is that students are able to connect anywhere, so they can have access to their work and to their accounts anywhere. So many students often, in this COVID period, even last year when we were fighting the crisis, so most of the people were coming up to us saying that we don't have heavy workstations at our home to run the CAD. So I think Onshape came in picture and helped out a lot of customers, over a million even last year in education itself, by running and having compatibility to run over any of the platforms, say your Android systems, iOS, iPad, Chromebooks. So that's the best part about Onshape. So you don't need to have any installation for it. So you just need a web browser and an internet connection to access Onshape and have your cloud CAD running. The second part is that you never lose your data because it's on the top of cloud. So the architect deployment is in such a way that every click is restored within the system. So that's another benefit, or you can say the feature of Onshape. So you never lose your data, and it's quite impossible for people to work on the older version, because Onshape makes sure that once you sign up with Onshape, you will be on the top and latest releases and versions of Onshape. So every single person who's working or using Onshape as their CAD tool, they are working on the latest version. If I talk about real-time collaboration, then collaboration is something in traditional CAD is something in which we do in a serial manner. Like I'm copying the data and then sharing it to another person just to share my designs. But in collaboration here, you are simultaneously making changes, and with whosoever you're collaborating, that person is immediately simultaneously seeing all the changes happening within the CAD. So it's all parallel collaboration that happens within the CAD system. So that is something, the best and top features about Onshape that I would like to highlight about. Right. So my second slide is about the educational offerings that we give you. So I would like to introduce you to the enterprise plan of education. And the new thing with the enterprise plan is that not only it has all the standard features which I've shown you, like the top features, but also it gives you the advanced features of your analytics. It gives you a better administrative control and capabilities, and you can have all the release management workflows and SSO integration within. So if I talk about the bulk class management, then you can, if it's a larger group of institution, then it makes it easy for you to have added 500 or even more students to your enterprise. So that's the best part. It does bulk addition, it does bulk deletion. So the bulk class management can be done in a very easy way. And if I talk about your data analytics, so it gives you a proper insight of how your students or your colleagues are performing with your CAD system. So the dashboards and the reports that you have in the analytics tab is really brilliant. That can have access to every, in that you can actually go to the minute clicks of a person. So that's how the analytics is built in within Onshape. The action items of Onshape is something in which it can help you with your evaluation. Say somebody you want to have. You have 50 students and you want to assign them tasks, so in within the action items you can raise the tickets by putting at the rate, and they can be assigned the task and you can see them in the action items. The SSO integration is so self-provisioned in Onshape that you don't actually need to have an IT administration overhead for that. But instead, you can yourself do it. And we do provide you with a lot of identity providers within Onshape, and you can have the SSO integration. So within the same customization of your institution, you can have, your student can have the access to those Onshape accounts as well. If I talk about the global permissions, it is quite role-based access control. So suppose if you want all the educators to invite the students, but on the same time, if you don't want your students to invite other students to the enterprise, then yes, it does all of that. And apart from that, it does have a lot of permissions that you can have control over. It works really fine with your release management workflow, since PDM systems is built in with Onshape. So you get all of the workflows with less of hassles. And we can't miss on that you do have a private domain once you're part of education enterprise. So it can be your school name.onshape.com or any other name that you would like to choose. Okay, so the four key value drivers that I seriously wish that one should know about is that in any product development success, this transformation of collaboration, your innovation, your efficiencies, and we can't miss on the security. So these four things stand out as a priority when any CAD user look at a CAD system, and they always tend to improve all these four pillars. So to have started with that level of success, we need a fresh look upon what tools we were using in past. And I think that's where Onshape would come in picture. All right, so it does give you a faster time to market with modern technology, since you're always focusing on the design process, not on the administration. So you spend more time on innovating things and less time on managing your files. So it does come with your decreased cost of service. You're just paying for the software and nothing else. You don't need heavy workstations for that, and you don't need further updates. It's always updated, and it's quite protected, IP protected, and it gives you less of risks. So that's all about the key features and drivers of Onshape. So let's get started with how multi-part design in traditional CAD systems happen. So what's referred to as multi-body approach. So you can create a solid body within a single part, and that's common workflow in any traditional CAD system. So in a screenshot, forgive me, it's a bit smaller in size, but it's a concrete bucket, and which has approximately 41 solid bodies within that part, right? So it's always has been the approach that in the older CAD system you have bodies, and suppose if you want to make them together, it's okay that you create them together in a part, but those are not real parts. So if you want to say insert any part into an assembly, so maybe let's take an example of a nut and bolts, and I want to insert them in a concrete bucket. So what I'll have to do is, to accomplish this process, I will have to export all the bodies in that part file and make them into individual files. So essentially what you're doing is that single multi-body has to split up into multiple part files just to get them inserted, in an assembly, and which may lead to confusions and create lots of files. So it's a tedious workflow that we usually discuss. So pardon me, it's about creating 41 part files to 41 solid bodies. So that's what we create. And the biggest thing I would stress upon is that this actually happens in any multi-body design, and these kind of similar approaches. So you are creating a multi-body, not a multi-part, in a traditional file-based system. So reiterate, I would just like to highlight this workflow, this web of files that you see. It's pretty troublesome, when you look at any traditional CAD-based system. So you have to export all the files, and then say it was 41 solid bodies, so you have to create 41 part files. And then hereafter, when it has to be inserted, so the reason to show up this graphic is the biggest question that often asked by people is that where should we go when we have to make the changes? So should I go to the actual part, to the multi-body file, or for changing and then exporting into a part file and then again going to the assembly file? Or do I have that intermediate file that was generated within the process? Or should I go to the assembly or directly edit those? So this is a little bit cumbersome workflow, especially um, when you're incorporating with your data management. Say, these solutions generate a lot of noises and confusions when we talk about this intermediate step that comes in. So the need for having a new approach was to omit this from the system of having that intermediate step which comes up. And I think that's where Onshape came in picture, and we have to reduce that step. So let's have a look upon the basic differences that comes up when you talk about multi-part design in Onshape and any traditional CAD system. So in our scenario, that I would stress upon is that a part studio in Onshape, you can design multiple parts in the same time, and these are real parts. So the distinction is that you have the ability to insert all these parts directly into the assembly individually. So altogether, there is no in between step that you just saw in the workflow. So they can have their own part number, their descriptions, the things that you assign to a part, they have everything, but they are real parts. So also from the beginning, you design in multi-part and you are designing those real parts. So there's no export out when you need to insert that into an assembly, and there's no difference in terms of your metadata. Say when you model or interact with regards to whether you take an approach of bottom up manner or a single tab in a single tab, or say bottom up or top up manner. So there's no such differences that comes up with designing in a multi-part studio. So the key factor I would stress upon is that the workflow really opens up when we start working on a multi-part design, right? So you don't have any intermediate steps, and this does really work well when it comes to regenerating and reducing the cumbersomeness of any file management system. So to reiterate this, I will show you this workflow, which is quite interesting. And this workflow just talks about, it's quite simple. Working in a part studio and I want to insert all the assemblies, I'm just doing it directly. So all the changes that are happening, I can do it within the multi-part studio. So less of noise in the system and pretty simple with Onshape. So for new users who are new with Onshape, it's a multi-part modeling. You're building multiple parts in one part studio environment, and it's quite useful for a number of different situations. See, like if you're creating dependencies between parts, say, or you want to have a better content, like design intent. So it gives you a lot of flexibility when you build your models in those areas, right? And you can also have multi technique for creating those multiple parts, like bridging your tools. You can use tools like boolean and other stuff. So we'll also have a look upon those things as well when we move to the software part of it. And let me just cover up the last slide for you. The power of this scenario I would like to talk about is the last thing is the advantage of Onshape. So from the beginning, what I have explained is that you are working on the real parts. So in any traditional file-based systems, you were working on the bodies. But now when you started working on parts, you are simply deleting that step of having different part files, and you need not to have exports, and especially you assign the metadata right away when you insert them into the assembly. Or if your drawings, I know it's a bit of out of context when we talk about assemblies or drawings, but in kind of management, so there is no imports and export steps needed. And the last advantage that I would like to highlight upon is that it has a very beautiful feature list, because most of the time when people think of feature list, they generate features for a single part. But in Onshape, you have one parametric feature list that can represent a number of related parts, and the ability is really powerful. When you give it in hands of a designer, he would really make it in use, and he would find it very useful in terms of working on a multi-part studio. So just the advantages and the different approaches that we discussed. So now let me switch to the software part of it and show you how the boolean features and the bridging works in a multi-part studio. And let's get started with creating different parts. So I will stop sharing my screen for a while, and let me just share another screen with you, which is my software screen. All right, so let me share the entire screen first. Mm-mm-mm-mm. Okay, let me try again, sharing my entire screen. So, do you see my software screen?
We can see the StreamYard.
Pardon? Nelsie, are you saying something? Okay, you can see just the StreamYard. Okay, StreamYard. All right, let me just remove it and try sharing the entire screen with you. So bear with me for a moment. And it doesn't show me, of sharing the entire screen. Okay, now it's okay. I hope now you can see the entire screen of mine, right?
Yeah, we can see Onshape.
Perfect. That's what we needed. All right. So I would like to show you some of the techniques today, which we usually do in any multi-part studio, and most of the times people are unaware of that they are doing the bridging. So you can see a very simple squeegee here, right? So what happens here is I want to see the whole product as one, and um, to just introduce you, this is the feature list, and this is my parts, where I'm creating multiple parts. And as you can see, there are 4 parts being created. And as a final product, what I want is I want this handle arm, I want this middle space to be filled up with some material, and then I want it one part in as my real part. So what I will do is I will simply click on loft. I will select one of the profile here, right? And I will be selecting another sketch from my feature list. And I do see that the guide is not defined, so I'll just define the path, right? And we see there is another part which is being created, and it is called the part 5, or the middle part of the handle. And what we did right now is we just did bridging. So that's a multi-power technique that we do in a multi-part studio. So now you also observe that a new part has been added, but the final product that I need is to be added with this base and the handle arm. So what I will do is I'll simply select the add button. And as soon as I hit add, you see there are different merge scope that it asks me. Do I want to merge it with all, or do I want it to be merged with my different parts? So say I select this of my part and say my handle arm from my part list, right? And as we merge them all, you see the final product. So the toggle button would show me how it would look like as a final product. So you see, as I hit OK, this part has been reduced to 3 and this has been created as one part, right? So that's what we do when we talk about bridging in Onshape and when we are working in a multi-part studio. So, for that sake, let me just show you another thing that we can do with this squeegee is that I want that, this arm rod should be hollow. It shouldn't be a solid arm, right? So what I can do is I just want the shelling in this part only, but not in the entire part. So what I can do, and to make it easy, I will simply split it first before putting the shelling. So I can select the part which I want to split it with, and I can, select a plane. So I can have a filter here and I can click on plane. So yeah, this is the plane that I needed, and I can separate these two parts. So you see another part 4 is being created. So these both things are separated, right? So in the part 4, this bridging, what we did was attached to the base, and this handle is again a splitted part. So what I will do is, to make it easy, I will simply click on the shell thing and I'll select the surface of my loft and I'll create the shell, right? So this is how we did, some instances we did upon a single part, right? But the final product that I needed was this as a one part. So I don't want multiple parts to be there in my BOM. So what I will do is I'll simply click on Boolean features, and I will be uniting my handle arm and the base of the squeegee as one. And as you can see, this part 3 has been united, right? So it's pretty easy when you start working in Onshape in a multi-part studio. And yes, it does makes your work pretty easy. So another example, let's take of a cantilever clamp that I have, right? So I told you that I'll be showing you few examples that we can, um, relate and create dependencies between parts also. So here we will also see that how the dependencies are being created within the same master sketch. So in the cantilever clamp, if I go to the isometric view, so you see there are a lot of overlapping surfaces, right, in the profile itself. So one way in any traditional CAD system, so people who are using it, so they may find some issues while creating such overlapping, profiles. So let's extrude it, and see what the final product would look like, right? So you see, I have created one folder here. It has got my master sketch in it. So the master sketch would look like this. And creating folders in the feature list is pretty easy. By right click, you can simply unpack or pack the features in the feature list, right? So what I will do here is I will simply extrude, my profiles. And one option with me would be just having it extruded, having the entire sketch extruded, right? So you see my entire sketch is extruded, but I will hit cancel here. But what I want to do in actual is I want to select the contours of my profile, right? So I can create multiple parts within a part studio. I will give it a diameter, a depth of 5, right? And moving to the depth, I'll also extrude this circle. And you see a new part has been created in my part list, right? So I'll hit OK. Now I will just create another extrude from the same master sketch. You see, the main master sketch is being used to create multiple parts by creating dependencies on that. So what I will do is I will again select my profiles for that sake, and what I will do is, okay, this thing is left, right? So I will also give it a depth of 5. But there's an important thing to notice here is that you see the direction of the extrude. So because it's in the same planar, surface, so it's automatically adding it. But in my part studio, what my requirement is to have this arm, the smaller arm, as a new part. So I'll hit OK to the new part, and you see this new part has been generated. And let me also change the direction to that, right? So this new part has been generated. We can easily name them. I'll name it as large arm. I'll name this as my smaller arm, right? Now, I want, to create several pins within my master sketch. So what I can do is I can simply create the surface, select the surface, and then I will select sketch, right? I will select from the options having a circle. Yeah, it is, right? And having another circle at the large arm at the end. And I will also put some constraints with respect to my master sketch. So I'll make that circle equal, and you see it's concentric. Perfect. I'll hit OK to my sketch 3. Now, let's create another sketch, not on top of this arm, but on the smaller arm. And what I'll do is I'll again select my profile and select sketch. I'll create another circle on this arm, and then another circle on this arm. I'll put a constraint of equal here. Also, if you observe, I am selecting the circle on of this sketch and then making it equal to another sketch which we just drew in past. So I'll just put a constraint as equal, and you see both of the circles are equal now. So it's pretty easy to do, right? So now I want these 4 pins to be created in the same part studio. So I don't want to go back and forth, having the measurement of this sketch and then, having the pins created in a separate, part studio. So I don't want that. So what I will do is I'll create these new parts of these pins in the same multi-part studio. And let's see how we do that. So by selecting the extrude, I will simply select my sketches from the part list, and I will also select up to face because I want it to be extruded up to the face of middle plane. So the mid plane is an offset plane to my master sketch, and as you can see, it has been extruded. And you see these new 4 parts has been created. So we started from 2 and then we created new 4 parts in that, right? So that's a good part about it. Perfect. Also, you do see that these are overlapping my main profiles of the large arm and the smaller arm. So for that sake, I don't want to take the diameter of the large arm and then, having it set to the large arm pin. So I don't want that. So for that, I will simply have an option of Boolean here. I will subtract. The tools which I want to take is my large arm and the small arm, right? And I will also target upon these 4 pins, right? 5. So you see, once I've subtracted it, you see these knots are being created within the part. right? So these four pins have been created, and by default, when you subtract in the boolean, so it doesn't keep the tools. So you have to hit OK at the keeping tools, because we want those arms to be there in the final product. And the toggles button would show you how it would look like as the final product, right? I will hit OK. Perfect. So now, another point that I would like to focus upon would be, like, how about creating another pins from the same master sketch? And uh, let me just hide those arms first, and I want to have it on the another side of my mid plane. So what I would do for that, I can simply also hide the sketch, and what I can do is I will simply select all of my pins, and I will do a mirror to that. And along the mirror plane would be my mid plane, right? So let me select my mid plane. And as you can see, these pins are being created, right? So you also see that there are again four new parts which has been generated. So I will also shortly cover about what things we should avoid in a multi-part studio. So this is one of the thing that never create duplicates, right? So my requirement here is not to have multiple parts of the same intent right now. So what I will do is I will simply add them within the part studio. So the patterns could be multiple, so it does give me with which parts I want them to be merged with. So I'll select from my part list, and you can see these are being selected from the part list, right? And they are being one part, right? So another way of doing it is, like, if I don't somehow forget, for the new users, just to tell you about that. So say I just have created multiple parts. The Boolean feature again, how we just did in the squeegee, by uniting the multiple parts, we can do it the same way within this by uniting it, right? So I will simply have it selected and from my workspace and have them united and as one part, right? So again, like within the boolean, let me just have it selected. Yeah. So my final product would look like this, right? As one part. So that's the best thing about Onshape when we do so. And let me just unhide my smaller arm and the larger arm. And this is how you create multiple parts and also create some of the dependencies, right? One more thing I would like to cover up in a multi-part studio is something, um, when you have a sketch and when we say that you can immediately have updates of any changes that has been made within the part studio. So you don't have to go back and forth into different files to make change to one thing. So that's the often asked question. So you are doing it within the part studio. Let me show you how we do it. So let's click edit in my master sketch. You see this is my master sketch, and what I wanted to do here is um, I want to change the length of the arms here, right? So I'll simply make it to 65 here, and let's make this one as 65 also, right? So I've made both of these as 65 and I will hit OK. So my final product has been updated with all of the changes. For the sake to show you, I will just simply click undo. This is the undo button, and I can also have a shortcut key which would be Control Z. You see the arm's length was shortened. Let's see it again. I will just redo it. Has been increased. So you also have a, just a short note, you also have a shortcut of keyboards that you can have, and you can not open it alongside with Onshape. working in the workspace, so you have it an arrow button, so it does open in the different tab, and you can have it as PDF or anything like that. So it's pretty easy and good to have these shortcuts. So this is how we stressed upon the multi-part studio and created multiple parts within the same part studio. And within the assembly, this thing would look like something this. So I have created one part studio. In the part studio, I've created one parts of each, and then in my assembly what I could do is I can have them grouped together, or as per my requirement, as I can define their movements and freedom, degree of freedom, right? So that's what we can do, when we talk about assemblies. um, all right. So I will quickly share one video, and that I actually felt is important to show when we actually talk about having the relationship and dependencies between the parts. So let me stop sharing first my screen and uh, share with you a video which is about, uh, you know, which tells you about that you should not be creating independent parts within the part studio. So it does not make any sense that you're creating your independent parts within the part studio. So it's often preferable that with no dependencies, we should create the parts separate in a separate part studio, right? So it's always better to do so. So as you can see, these different parts, independent parts, are created in different part studios, so it doesn't lead to confusions on later on. And if you can see this cylinder, it has got one tie rod. This yellow tie rod is just one. It has been created one within the part studio, right? But if in case you see the assembly of it, so you would see that there are multiple parts. It's not suitable like I create different patterns and then create multiple tie rods within the part studio. So what I can do is I can have one tie rod within the part studio, so and then group them together within my assembly. So let me just stop sharing this video with you and show you how you can actually group them together. And it's always good to use these intents. So two major things that I wanted to share. So the same example of having a tie rod in the single, and then you can have them grouped together with the barrel or say the cap. And also you do have something like configuration changes within the part studio. So if you want to have the whole configuration to different directions or so, you can do that within the part studio, right? Okay. So this is the thing which should be avoided while working in a multi-part studio. And because we are left with some more time, I would like to highlight upon the resources that you get with Onshape. So Onshape brings you with a lot of self-paced learning courses within the learning center. So if you can see, there are a lot of self-paced learning courses that you can go through and have technical briefings upon, and lots of things that you can do with the resources. We do have webinars, you can have educators resources, so it's quite flexible for any educator to onboard with Onshape, right? So that's one thing I would like to highlight upon. And I can show you the collaboration feature, but I hope like we can show that some other day, because the collaboration feature works so well with a multi-part studio. You can try out on your own, or if you have any doubts coming up, you can surely come back to us, mail us with your queries and questions. But I would at the end, I would like to show you some of the examples that we have got from our students over past year, and they have been using it brilliantly. And I would also, from these examples, I would like to show you that how easy it is to create multiple parts and then get them assembled easily within a document. So this entire thing is a document for your reference. So it's something, a collection of information or data that we have. So we can have a part studio within that, we can have assembly, we can have your drawings, we can have your non-CAD files. So everything is there within the parts, within this document. So this is a underwater observatory, and it was a small game that we used to play, was like having some of the hidden parts which were there. So you need to find out some of the hidden parts that can be done. So this is a beautiful example of having a multi-part design in a part studio with Onshape. So this is one, and another example that I would like to show upon is this beautiful, live stage that was being created. It may take time to load in, and then this, wings of this jet aeroplane. So it will load in a while. All right. So you can also have them shared as link sharing. So if you want to restrict, anybody who with whom you're sharing, if you want to restrict them, so you can always have it as link shared. So you see there are multiple files are available within this. So pardon me for having taken this time to load this workspace. So it'll take time because it's quite heavy and having multiple parts, as you can see in the tab. So as I can show you, there are multiple folders that are being created. A lot of CAD imports have been there. So just to show you this file. So that's how, the stage looks like. So these are some of the beautiful projects that I would like to share with you guys, because it's the efforts of all the students who are loving Onshape and, working on Onshape, religiously. And another example is of this is a full assembly of the jet, right? So you can also have a look upon the visuals of the fine details that have been created within this, right? So you can have some of the parts isolated, right? So these are the examples that I would like to highlight upon, right? So I think that's all from my side right now, and I would like to thank you for attending the session. And I will stop sharing my screen for a while. And I hope you may have liked the session and you have got to learn something new about Multipart Studio.
Okay. If you have questions, feel free to post it in our comment section. Okay. And there's no copy of Onshape. You can access Onshape here. So the link is in the comment section. So just click it, sign up or log in.
Yeah.
Okay, if you have questions, feel free to post it in our comment section and Priyanka will answer it. Okay.
Also, feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions, if there are educators who are attending this session. So I would really invite you all to have try off the education version. So Nelsie would give you more details on that. So in any feedback you would like to give to us or any questions, you can reach out to us. Yeah, that's all what I wanted to share. Thank you, Nelsie.
Okay, yeah, Priyanka. So as I mentioned, we have lots of like engineering students. So my question for you is, what or who inspires you to take up mechanical engineering? Can you share it with us?
That's a good question, and we can utilize time as well since we were expecting some questions. So, initially I didn't thought of taking mechanical engineering, but the beauty of being a mechanical engineer, I realized after opting, is that you see everything live. No, I mean, there's nothing which you have to virtually imagine, right? So everything is there within the room. If you see and you have a look around any object that will be designed by a mechanical engineer. So that's the beauty of being a mechanical engineer. I earlier thought of opting electronics, but then I find out the workshops interesting, and I liked to have the workshops of carpentry or something like that, having IoT tried upon. So I loved it. So that's the reason I opted for mechanical engineering.
Okay, so from JM, is it possible to have the multi-part body and exploded view?
So yes, you can do it somehow, but I would suggest that you can have it in the assembly as well. So there's a toggle button which you get, and it is also available there in the learning center, through which it moves in three direction, X, Y, and Z, and you can simply have it right clicked and have the exploded views of your parts, multiple parts. So but initially, the basic thing that you should understand is that working in a multi-part studio, the parts are static. So part studio, you are creating static parts, and for the motion you go for in the assembly. So that's what the major differences are. Okay, thank you, JM. Nelsie, you are on mute.
Okay, if you have future questions or any other concerns, feel free to send us a message in Onshape users worldwide Facebook page. Okay, yeah. So like and follow, join our groups on Shape users worldwide. And to those who will watch the replay, it's available in on Shape users worldwide Facebook page and YouTube channel. Okay.
All right, thank you everybody for joining in, and yeah, that's all.
Okay, thank you, Priyanka, and I hope you have a great evening and keep safe always.
Yeah, everybody take care. Bye bye.
Okay, do you recommend getting an on-ship certification if I want to teach on-ship? Well, it's better if you have a on-ship certification because it will signifies that you really know on-shape. Okay. So if you have time or thoughts in or interested in getting a certification, go and get it now. Okay. Okay, thanks everyone for joining. So I'd like to invite everyone to join us in youtube.com/onshape users worldwide. Okay, so this is our sixth series in mastering Onshape. Okay, if you miss the first, second, or third series, feel free to visit youtube.com/onshape users worldwide, where you can replay all the videos. And inviting you to our upcoming live stream training. So our next training will be on October 15 at 7 p.m. So that is creating dynamic assemblies in Onshape. Okay, so if you're interested to join us, please do register and visit our YouTube channel and set the reminder. Okay, so our Onshape series is every third Friday every month. So mark your calendar every third Friday of each month at 7 p.m. here in Onshape users worldwide. Okay, thanks everyone for joining, and I hope to see you next month for our next Onshape training. Bye everyone.
Onshape is the
I feel a real obligation to make teaching CAD and data management engineering, make it easier for educators to teach. At two different points in my life, I worked teaching, in one case teaching CAD, and I had been working for a few years building CAD tools. But then when I went to teach them, I was like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. The systems were hard, teaching it is hard work. I feel a real obligation to make teaching CAD and data management engineering, make it easier for educators to teach, because I know what it was like trying to teach it. And I think with Onshape, we have the new generation of tools to not only pass along better experiences to students, to teach them better, to teach them in the modern ways of work, but also to fit with the expectations that the students have coming into education these days. I mean, students would come in and look for a SaaS-based system that runs on a Chromebook or MacBook or something. They're just going to say, well, of course, that's the way it will work. Of course it will be on my phone or my iPad. For our mission that I and all other engineers have to educate the future workforce, Onshape is the perfect tool to step into a new generation of doing that, to teach them even better, and that's our obligation.
It used to be that you would design under one roof and then manufacture under one roof. What we've seen is a lot more specialization. Expertise has become fragmented, and as a result, each of these people need to coordinate and work together in the design process. They can be across the state, across the country, across the globe. And so people need tools to be able to interact and communicate. We took the opportunity to look at how the CAD world had evolved, how product design had evolved, and how the computing infrastructure evolved. And we decided to hit the reset button on product design software.
Onshape is building a new generation of CAD, one that's designed for teams to use. Everyone on the team can use it anywhere, on any device, anytime.
We're capitalizing on the platform, the cloud, mobility, and redesigning essentially what CAD is to help people design products faster, easier, and more affordable.
20 years ago, when we built SolidWorks, we built CAD on the modern computing platform, the Windows PC. It runs only on that computer. When it comes time to work as a team, our users have to use all these schemes to copy files, check in, check out. It's kind of a hassle and it costs them time. Today, CAD still runs on that Windows PC, but people are used to using their phone, their tablet. People are used to working on multiple computers and going into a web browser.
Teams are built up and torn down quicker. There's a lot more collaboration, tends to be a lot more contractors, a lot more consultants.
And so the rest of the computing world has changed a lot, but CAD hasn't. And it's time for CAD to evolve.
You know, users, they're like all of us. They're tired of trying to figure out What's the login password for the data vault? Because I don't use it all the time. And when I get the assembly, all the links are broken.
License fees, installations, license managers.
Do I have the right version of the part or the right version of the assembly?
I visit CAD users. Years ago, I talked to them about modeling cool shapes and cool products. But in recent years, when I visit users, they're talking about all the hassles of CAD. And it's time to get rid of all that.
Users today expect that we should just be able to access information and share and work with other people real time, much like the way that Google does for working on a Word document. We've done that for the CAD world.
We get to collaborate on the same geometry, which was never done before. We have found ways to break down our modeling paradigms, our assemblies, our models, our features, so that multiple engineers can collaborate on the same feature, which was never done in CAD before.
The cloud is really a transformational platform.
We put the CAD system and the CAD data in one place in the cloud, and one master copy of the CAD data that everyone can access simultaneously from anywhere through any device. So there's never any copying of a CAD system, and there's never any copying of CAD data.
When we're working on something simultaneously, you see visual cues to understand what part of the model you're working on, what part of the model I'm working on.
Even people who see Onshape once will say to me, "Hey John, can I get a copy of Onshape?" And I say, there is no copy of Onshape. I don't have to send you a copy. You can log in from any computer. You log in through any web browser and you have access to the whole system. Even if you have an iPad or a phone, you can use Onshape.
It can be used by the single user working at home, the small design professionals, small teams, through to some of the largest manufacturers in the world.
CAD users, product designers, engineers, they don't sit at their desk all day. They're in meetings, they're moving around, they're at the coffee shop, they're having lunch, they're home thinking about it on the weekends. Wherever they are, whenever inspiration strikes, they should have access to CAD, and with Onshape they do.
Browser technologies, mobile technologies, and cloud technologies are converging and giving the capabilities to build complex system like ours.
What we are doing here is very forward-thinking and innovative, and we have the team that can achieve this.
We've got people who are the most experienced, talented, smartest software engineers and CAD engineers that I've met in my career.
And so it's serious CAD, it's serious design software.
You get products done faster by teams, and you'll get them done better because they have more time to spend on engineering. And finally, I think engineers and designers will have more fun. Onshape's just more fun to design with.